Welcome to the Dom.Hockey podcast, proudly presented by Bench Rates. Created by a former hockey player, Bench Rates uses a proprietary algorithm to assign a true monetary value to a player's on-ice contributions and lets you compare that value directly to his cap hit. Bench Rates evaluates professional players across leagues worldwide, including the NHL and AHL. Learn more at benchrates.com. Also presented by McKeen's Hockey. McKeen's produces the premier NHL draft guide featuring more than 200 player reports and comprehensive rankings. They also deliver in-depth prospect coverage through their annual team-by-team rankings and their trusted hockey pool yearbook. Visit mckeens.com and subscribe for just $16.50 Canadian for 3 months. Welcome into another Saturday morning episode of Dom.Hockey, the podcast. Dom, it is the dog days of summer, but they are coming to an end as prospects start to report to camp. So rather than give people yet another conversation about Tarasenko or Dylan Larkin or unsigned players that the Boston club might need to look at or should look at, I'm thrilled that we're going to start focusing on the prospects. How about you?
Me too. It's like there's at least half a dozen of them on the ice already. Some international tournaments coming up they're going to be involved in. Got a couple of them that are trying to turn pro this season at a young age. So really excited that their season is underway and to have some real hockey talk for once this month.
Yeah, it like I said, it's the dog days of the summer, but there's still some productive stuff to go over. I know you have an order that you want to go with these guys, so we'll just go one at a time, and kind of go through. And I definitely want to touch on what people should be looking for if they're going to watch a particular prospect, what expectations should be for that prospect, and kind of, maybe you and I can try to hone in on what would make a successful season for that player. What do you think?
Yeah, that's perfect because I have, every year I put together a projection of what they should do. That should be coming out next week. Still waiting to see exactly where a couple of players are going to be playing. So that's always fun to follow to see how they progress because, as you know, usually it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it is quite accurate most of the time. For what it is trying to project and all the difficulties of trying to maneuver things like league changes or roster changes and stuff like that, you've seemed to have found a way to account for all of them. So rather than bore people, though, what do you say we jump right in?
Well, let's go for it.
All right. So first on our list is Liam Pettersson, 2025's 61st overall draft pick of the Boston Bruins. Dom, what should people expect from Pettersson this season?
Well, he's probably one of a couple of players I'm going to be following real close this year because he made the move to Djurgårdens to try and make the SHL squad this year as a 19-year-old, coming off a season where he missed a little more than the first half of the year last year and never really got into full swing. So I think it might be hard for him to make the pro roster in Djurgårdens. He could be in the Allsvenskan. Remains to be seen if he can get back to where he should be. But let's face it, he lost almost an entire year of development. I think he's got skill. I think he's got talent. Excellent puck mover. I'm not worried about point production from him if he does make the SHL. I'm more concerned about him getting back to where he should be. The Bruins obviously saw something in him. And if he can get to that level, that'll be great. So that's more than anything what I'm going to be watching from him this year is where is he going to be playing, and will he get back to the level he should be at early on?
Yeah, as a second round pick, you expect a somewhat higher ceiling than with someone drafted in, say, the seventh round.
Yeah.
So you want to see him, especially after missing a year 18 season. That's one of the more critical ones as they're trying to develop. So really just looking for that bounce back season. I mean, we talked a couple years ago about Jonathan Muhlenberg needing that kind of season, and it didn't go as well as we had hoped. So this, like you said, is one really worth watching, especially on the back end as the Bruins, as you go through guys like Hampus Lindholm and the guys that are currently here, those contracts are going to start to come off the books as someone like Pettersson is trying to make his way into the NHL. So you really want to be able to see him come back, have a strong season, find that level again, and on the right trajectory, push for a spot in the big league.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Muhlenberg. There's a guy who lost a good chunk of his season due to injury the year that the Bruins had to sign him or lose his rights. And they walked away and lost his rights, and he just never recovered enough from the injury. So we'll see where Pettersson is at. I like him as a player. It's just a matter of getting back to where he should be. And again, not worried about production for him. He's 19 years old going against men in the SHL. So, that'll come in time.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Muhlenberg contract running out. It was his final year. You don't have to worry about that with this season that Pettersson lost because they have his rights until, 2029? Does that sound right?
I can tell you in a second. Yeah, 2029.
Yeah, because no one has. Maybe there is it just this year the 2026 players that would have until 2030.
Well, no, it depends on it. It depends on school and everything, right? So.
Oh yeah, true.
It's all changed and it's all rather confusing.
Yeah, it's going to probably change 6 times between now and when Pettersson's rights expire anyway. So
exactly.
But again, it's not this year. It's not next year. You got plenty of runway with him. So with that, we will move on to 2025, the 100th overall pick, Vashek Blanar.
Or Blenar. I guess the Czech pronunciation is dependent on where the accent is, and I believe it's over the A, not the R. So we're going to go with Blenar. We are going to be interviewing him this week for next week's pod coming up. I've been talking to him a bit the last week to try and arrange a date and a time. The 6-hour time difference doesn't help, and he's on the ice a lot. So as for Blenar, again, trying to make the SHL squad with HV 71. He's on the ice with them at camp right now. He's also trying to make Czechia's World Junior Championship roster for the end of the year. I believe his next week will be at the Five Nations tournament, which is it's the European version of the World Juniors Summer Showcase we have here in North America. I know he's got 4 games in 4 days. Like, they're on the ice constantly, beginning August the 26th. So he's going to be playing a lot of hockey this year. Again, 19 years old, trying to make the SHL roster. Like Pettersson, I'm not worried about production. I liked what I saw from him last year, where from the start of the season to the end of the season, the gradual improvement we saw from him, especially defensively. You were at development camp. You saw it there. He had some one-on-one battles with Dean Letourneau. So again, not worried about production with him. If he makes that roster, I just want to see him get his feet wet playing against men and seeing that steady improvement. Again, there's also the possibility after the World Juniors that he could be coming to North America, either in the USHL or the WHL. Um, Depending, of course, what HV71 wants to do with him for the upcoming season, whether he's playing pro or whether he's playing in the Allsvenskan league. So we'll see. But I'm excited about him. I like how he's progressed. Uh, he's the other piece in the Brandon Carlo trade from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know
Yeah,
I spent a lot of
forgotten
time.
piece.
Yeah, spent a lot of time correcting people on that. So
And also correcting people on when he's going to UMass,
yeah,
because
yeah.
that
I
got
think
out there.
elite prospect still has him going there this year. I believe,
Uh,
which is not true.
no, he's going there for the 27-28 season.
Yeah,
So, and that's what I'm excited for. Obviously, we want to see how he does with HV71, and see maybe if he gets those pro games under his belt. But like you said, I'm not that worried about production. The guy's got size. The guy has talent. It's like you said before with Pettersson, he's 19. 19-year-olds on the most part are not NHL ready products. So to expect that from him is ridiculous. I want to see how he does based on the competition with HV71 to get that roster. And if he doesn't make that roster, how does he handle that? Does he just go in and take that U20 spot and run with it and just, push to be one of the best players on that team? Or does he sulk about it? Like what's his attitude towards what team he makes? Those are the kinds of things that we need to look at right now more than, like you said, the production.
yeah. I can guarantee he's not going to sulk about it.
I
He's
don't think
going to
so.
do. Yeah,
I don't think so. And I'm looking forward to having him on and chatting with him and kind of seeing, how he's fared with his journey to get to here. And, like I said, he's got the size, you just got to see continued development. That's all.
yeah. The tools are definitely there. I'm excited to see um, where he ends up this year and how he continues to progress.
So you ready to move on?
Let's move on.
All right. So up next, we have 2026 88th overall selection, Nils Bartholdsson.
So Nils, I'm very excited to watch him. He's probably at the top of my list to watch to see how he progresses. I think he's going to have an explosive uh, offensive season in the U20. I I think I'm going to have him somewhere around 60 points on the season, which is excellent production. Um, I want to continue to see him get stronger, continue to drive to the net, continue to work on his shot, maybe a little bit more playmaking. Um, but everything to like about this kid. I know I had him listed as a target in the third round for the Bruins, and happy that they selected him. But I really do think he should have gone higher in the draft. So super excited. Play both wings. Uh, on a Should be a good team with Rogel in the U20. Um, he may even uh, show good enough that he gets called up and plays a couple of pro games this season.
Yeah. You remember a couple years ago when you were sounding the bells earlier than anybody else on Matt Patra? I know you remember.
Yeah,
But I feel like when we got to camp and everybody saw Matt Patra and went, "Holy crap, this kid is good," that's the reaction that we're going to see in a couple years on Bartholdsson,
yeah,
because he's going to fly under the radar for a little while. People are going to look at him and go, "Oh, he was just third rounder, 88th overall, and Don Sweeney can't draft," and all those narratives are going to push him to the side. And then all of a sudden one day he's going to show up in camp and people are going to go, holy crap, this kid can play. And the fans are going to want him to stay on the roster. And based on how he's playing, that'll be a discussion at that time. But he's going to become a fan favorite with what he can do. He can shoot the puck. He's got great range on his shots. He's got good accuracy on his shots. He stood out in his very first development camp above so many other players who've been there for 2-3 years. And it just wasn't even close. I agree with you. I think he could have gone much higher in this draft.
I don't know about much higher, but at least second, middle to late second round. So
Yeah.
I think they've got great value there with him. Credit to the scouting staff to see the potential in him. I'm super excited. Probably the guy I'll be watching more than anybody else this upcoming season.
And for all those who want to say, oh, the team can't draft, but to be able to watch this player continually fall through the second round into the third round, because you didn't exactly pick super early in the third round yourself. So to be able to have the patience to not overreact and jump up to try to overpay for this player, but also recognize that he's still there and use that 88th overall on him, there has to be some credit given to the drafting staff for that decision.
Absolutely.
So another 2026 overall pick, unless you have anything else on Bartholdsson.
No, that covers him.
122 overall, they took Oscar Olsson. So let's start with him.
Well, first of all, the first thing that jumps out at me is the energy and the motor he plays with. It's nonstop, doesn't quit. Started last season in the U18s in Sweden, got the promotion to the U20 as a 17-year-old and put up almost a point per game. I think that's where he'll be at this year. It's definitely where he's going to be playing is the U20 as an 18-year-old. He's a power play specialist more than anything. Left winger. What he needs to work on is his 5-on-5 play. To not be overly dependent on the power play to put up points, but his energy, his motor, his vision, his smarts, his willingness to go to all the dirty areas are all pluses. So again, another guy I'll be watching to see how he improves as the year progresses.
Yeah, and to your point, he shows on the power play that he has the tools. And then it's just moving those and utilizing those tools in the right way, 5-on-5 with the right players as well. So his stick handling, his shooting, like all of that stuff is there. And I know he's in the bumper role on the power play, and like it's different when you're doing it 5-on-5. But the fact that the ability is there just means you have to work on developing the consistency for it.
Yeah.
And that's the part to look for. Whether he produces a little less on the power play, but his 5-on-5 picks up, then that's okay. Like the exact numbers and how it looks at the end of the day on a number sheet doesn't matter. What you need to see is when he's doing it. Is the progression there for 5-on-5? Like, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'd rather see a dip in his production, but go, okay, he looks much better 5-on-5 than, because then you can look for that production again later. It's there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we've talked about it before with a guy like Mason Lohrei. If it dips in one area, but he's better defensively, then you look at it and go, all right, now how can we round everything out? So, and at 18, 19 years old, that's where you're at with the guy.
Exactly.
So, let's see. You ready to jump forward to another 2025 pick?
Yeah, let's go. Keep it rocking.
All right, Kirill Yemelyanov.
Okay. So he had an excellent season last season. They won a championship, um, along with the guy we'll talk about next, Matvei Kotkov. I'm a little disappointed because all indications are he's going back to the MHL with local Yaroslavl. Uh, was hoping that he would at least move up to the VHL, which is Russia's equivalent of the AHL. Um, but there's still time. Um, Nothing's official yet about where he'll be playing, but he is listed on um, the KHL roster as a designated junior, which means he's destined to go back to play junior hockey in the MHL. So that disappoints me. Um, what I'm excited about is he was already a decent 200-foot player, but we saw improvement in that as the season progressed. He's an excellent offensive player. He was dominant in the playoffs on the way to a championship at both ends of the ice. So there's a little bit of disappointment, yet there's still a little bit of excitement to see um, how he progresses this upcoming season.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking a lot about him, right after they drafted him, and it'd be nice to see him make that jump. I know a lot of people aren't familiar with the MV and KHL format, but it is very similar to kind of where we are when it's ECHL, AHL, NHL.
Yeah,
But and so you want to see players progress, and the last thing you want to do is see that person stagnate in the American Hockey League, or in this case the MHL. And he put up great numbers before, so you'd think he'd be ready for that step. Hopefully it's just an online lack of update, but we'll see where it all goes. And
yeah, I don't
what he pushes
understand it.
for. What he pushes for.
Yeah, I don't understand it because he plays a great 200-foot game. So we'll see. I mean, it's still the middle of August. Things can change by the time September rolls around, but that's where he's at right now.
Yeah, and as a sixth rounder, he's a center that you're looking to keep. I would think they'd want to try and keep him there as much as he can play the wing. I mean, we've seen this team before be surprised with a lack of depth at a certain position.
Yeah.
So I don't think they want to get caught like that again, no matter who's in their pipeline. And what we've seen is having a valuable two-way center, at worst, is a very valuable trade chip if you use it right. So, as long as you're not packaging him with, a fourth round draft pick to get one that's someone that's over the age, you should be fine.
Yeah.
You mentioned that he won a championship with the next person on our list, 2026 104th overall pick, Matvei Kotkov. So where do you expect to see Kotkov this year, and what are you looking for out of him?
Well, he'll be back with local Yaroslavl. Look, he broke into the NHL 2 seasons ago as a 16-year-old and produced at almost a point per game clip. Last year, he was limited in his time in the regular season. Was also at a point per game clip. But boy, he erupted in the playoffs, earning MVP honors on the way to a championship. Look, there's no questioning this guy is an offensive talent. Uh, the the skills that he has when the puck is on his stick, like the shot, the vision, the playmaking ability, it's all there. What I have a big concern is his play when he doesn't have the puck. He seems um, kind of hesitant to let's say go and retrieve the puck or try and create turnovers to come back defensively. but still, you can say that about a lot of players this age
Yeah.
in this group. It's again the progression. I expect them to put up an enormous amount of points in the MHL this year. But besides that, I got to see growth and improvement in other areas of his game because otherwise, we're going to be talking about him a year or two down the road as not having a chance to play in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean he's got the tools. He's just working on the physicality part, like you said. He's got a big frame, 6 foot, 175. He's kind of, I mean, he's only 17, so he's kind of still building that frame. So, I think he's got to get used to the frame that he has, but he's also trying to do that while simultaneously that frame is starting to get bigger. So,
Yeah.
it's he's only 17, so I'm not worried about him right now. But to your point, you want to at least see those habits starting to form, the confidence getting there. That way, there when
Exactly.
if he does finalize at 6'3" and he's 190 pounds, he's not afraid to use that body.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I'll be watching him, paying a lot of attention to him, see how he's progressing, and we'll keep everybody informed.
We will, absolutely. So, with that, on to the 216th pick from this past draft in 2026, Cullen McCrate.
Yeah. So Colin, I have to say we're working on getting him on the show uh, over the next couple of weeks. Um, I have to say this: the Brantford Bulldogs in the OHL, they paid a hefty price to acquire him from the Owen Sound Attack after spending last season with the Fargo Force in the U. Um, so it's a hefty price to get a player for 1 year. That's I think the Brantford Bulldogs have become one of the top two or three model franchises in junior hockey. With the way not only that they promote players to the next level, but also coaching staff, uh, ownership, management. Michael Anlauer owned the team, and he's now an NHL owner. Steve Stais was a GM. He's now an NHL GM. John Gruden was a head coach there. He's now a coach, assistant coach in the NHL. Jay McKee was a coach there who I was hoping the Bruins would get. He's now in the Islanders organization. They're just a model franchise from top to bottom. And when they see a player that can help them, they pay the price to go out and get that player. He's going to bring energy and physicality to the back end. He's got some offensive abilities. I just love the acquisition, and I love that he's going there, and to watching how he progresses this season. I know he was a fourth round pick.
Yeah, he was one, two. No, I think it was later than that.
No, it was later than that.
216.
Yeah, he's seventh round pick.
Yeah,
I don't know where I got fourth from.
we talk a lot about all the fourth rounders too, so
yeah,
easy to get
so.
confused.
I'm curious to see how he will handle the added responsibility in Brantford. How he progresses under nothing against the Fargo Force, but how he progresses with better coaching, totally different system. The Bulldogs, when it comes to breakouts, is something that the Bruins are trying to employ with themselves. So we'll see how he does with that. And more than anything, I want to see where his offensive game is at, if there is another level with it.
Yeah, and what people can be excited for
with him as well is the fact that we know the next step this year is Brantford, and then the year after is Michigan State. And those are
Yes.
two premier developing organizations. I know you and I have had the conversation, even on the show before, about that NCAA path becoming the primary development path. And I think McCrate is going to exemplify what that can mean for a player. You know, he gets that last year with Fargo Force, then he goes to Brantford in the OHL, a great developing organization up there. You know, we talk highly of like the London Knights, for instance. Brantford is kind of becoming of that ilk from everything we've been able to see. And then he's going to an elite hockey program in the NCAA in Michigan State. So,
Absolutely.
you know, it's 3 years, 3 steps. We'll see where he's at in his freshman year at Michigan State. You know, that's one where you'd expect him to maybe play 2 years, and then you look at where is he. But again, for someone who's 19 right now, that's 4 years in the future.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just look for those incremental steps as the league gets better. Can he match? So, we do want to take a little bit of a step back to a 2023 214th overall pick now in Casper Nassen, who, compared to some of the other ones, has been in this organization a little bit longer than others. But at 214, we knew he was going to take some time. And I know you and I have talked a lot about him. He's finally entered the transfer portal in the NCAA.
Yeah. Leaving uh, Miami and going to Lake Superior. Look, it's no secret that I've been disappointed in him ever since they drafted him. Uh, you know, back from the U20 to college at Miami. We'll see what Lake Superior brings out of him. Hopefully something, because there is some skill there. He's just never been able, excuse me, to put it all together. I know his first year at Miami, it was just a dreadful, dreadful team. I think they only won 4 games all season long. They improved drastically last year, but he took a step back. He went from playing second line basically to playing third line. Um, so I don't know. If I'm being honest, right now I don't see an NHL future with him. Um, but that said, let's see what happens at Lake Superior, whether he's able to find his game.
Yeah, and like we said, he's a 7th round draft pick, so you know the flip of the coin is more often not an NHL career at that late in the draft. But you have seen flashes, and to your point, those first 2 seasons at Miami of Ohio, the team overall was not good. The first year was dreadful, and so you know it's a new change of pace. He's got at least another year of eligibility after this one. You know, we had that one bad year for Ty Gallagher before he went to Colorado College and completely turned things around.
Yeah,
So, and now he's thriving in Providence with getting another year under his belt coming up. So, you know, things can change in a hurry. It's just right now the trajectory is on a downward. Let's see if he can flip it around. That's really the more important thing for him is does the change of scenery help him and reflect in his game more so than what the doldrums of Miami, Ohio were helping him get to.
absolutely. So we'll see. I mean, there's time there. I'm not completely writing him off, but at this point, it doesn't look too good.
Yeah, it's handled with caution.
Yeah.
Up next, we have someone that is extremely high on so many people's lists as far as where he sits in this organization. He was a 2024 76th overall pick. He was selected by Colorado, and we brought him over in the Charlie Coyle trade. It's Will Zellers going back to the NCAA for another season this year, or going into the NCAA rather, with the University of North Dakota for his second year there.
Yeah, I look. Put it simply, I'm expecting something like a 50-point season from him this year. I expect this to be his last year. He will turn pro at the end of the season, whether that be uh, on an AHL contract to finish out the year, um, or his entry level contract. Um, but North Dakota is going to go far. They're gonna go really far this season, and a lot's gonna depend on how Zellers um, plays. But you know, there's every reason to be excited about him. Um,
Yeah.
To see continued growth in his game at both ends of the ice. That's all I'm looking for this season. But I think he's done after this year.
I mean, barring any major setback, I don't see why he would need to go back to Nodak for a third season. Everything is projecting to be great. He stepped in his freshman year and was pretty much a point per game player. And, Nodak is one of the top hockey, teams right now in the NCAA as far as development. So he's in a great program. He's made the great, and he made that step from the USHL. He didn't have to go to the OHL first. So,
Right.
if he levels off and is at least maintaining a point per game in the NCAA, that's still not a bad sophomore season. If that's his sophomore slump, I'll take it. He is someone that could very well be in that Hobie Baker conversation for the best player in the NCAA.
Um,
I wouldn't go throw money on it, but he could be in the conversation quietly.
He could be North Dakota's nominee, but I don't think he'll win it. He could be in the one of the final 10 maybe, but he'd have to have an astronomical season. I just don't think that is in him. But we'll see. Like I said, I think we're going to see him in Providence at the end of this season.
And I'll take that over a Hobie anyway.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Anything else on Zellers before we move on?
No. I think that one's pretty cut and dry, really.
Yeah, like I said, I know so many people are excited for him, and they should be. And I think as long as everything, as far as his own game goes, we should expect to see him get a couple games in Providence to end the season. Ideally, I think you want to have that ELC start in the 27-28 season, and he's on that, ATO for this year. But, let's see how he does, because he could completely shut everybody up in the NCAA season, and you want him in your NHL lineup to round out the year. We'll see where the Bruins end up going too. So up next on our list, though, is 2025 79th overall pick, Cooper Simpson.
Yeah, so will be a teammate of Zellers in North Dakota. I think people are going to draw the inevitable comparison to Zellers. Could he get there? I think at some point he could. I would be surprised if we get the type of freshman season out of Simpson that we got out of Zellers a year ago. Look at it this way: like Zellers wasn't even in the conversation for Team USA for the World Juniors, and he forced himself onto the roster the way he opened up the season a year ago. Simpson was at the summer showcase, and I don't want to say he didn't look good, but there's a dozen other forwards that look better. So he'd have to have the type of season to start like Zellers did a year ago to make that roster. And I don't know that it's in him. Certainly the skill and the ability is there. I like that he added playmaking to his repertoire last season. I just think we should hold expectations in check and not compare him to Zellers at this point, because we all know that development isn't linear. Everybody develops at their own pace, and at a different pace. Look at Dean Letourneau as an example. We'll get to him eventually, but um, let's hold expectations in check and see how he goes. He's not gonna get the prime minutes in North Dakota because Zellers is ahead of him on the wing. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's I think, like you said, the number one thing right now for Cooper Simpson is fan expectations. Those who are kind of looking at him off to the side, just having a high bar, that Will Zeller's expectation for him. Can he get to that level? We'll see. He's a great skater. He's got a lot of great attributes to his game, but exactly to your point, where he's going to be in the lineup, he's not going to have the opportunity because of Will Zellers. And so, you and I are very likely this year going to preach patience, which we've done so much in the past with so many prospects, but even the high end ones, you got to be patient so that when they have the opportunity, they can actually show it. And could he earn it? He could absolutely come into camp and earn a higher spot in the lineup. But, to your point, he came into the showcase, was not as great as you would have hoped. And you know what? If he struggles as a freshman, that's okay. He needs to be able to do that while
Yep.
he's adjusting his game. He's making that jump from the USHL directly to the NCAA. Some players, they need that OHL step in the middle. And that's what we might see here, is that he should have taken a step into the OHL first and then gone to the NCAA. But that's how you learn and figure out. These rules are new to everybody. So it's not exactly like scouts
Yep.
could sit there or advisors could sit there and say, this is what you should do, because they just don't know right now. So some of them are we're gonna
Yeah.
look back and go, yeah, you in retrospect you should have taken this other path, but we're here now, so let's work forward.
Exactly. Exactly. So again, I don't have I have expectations. I'm just trying to keep them in check and um, understand that Simpson is his own guy, and he's going to develop at a different pace, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. And so up next on our list, you mentioned him before. The expectations were a big part of his journey as well. 2024, 25th overall selection, the guy at BC this year, Dean Letourneau.
Look, this is his team now. He's going to be the engine that drives it offensively. Um, I expect he's going to have a massive offensive output, over 50 points. He's going to be in the running for the Hobie Baker Award. And I said it last year. I said it when I did my my rankings. He's got first line potential. Um, so does James Hagens. One of them is going to be moving to the wing. We'll see which one. But um, what a difference a year made from his freshman to his sophomore season, where almost everybody was calling him a bust. And then there was a group of us that was saying, patience, patience, patience. We
And then
even
it came out
heard
that he had a broken wrist.
Yeah, but we even heard Don Sweeney say that maybe going to BC 2 years ago wasn't the right choice, but it is what it is. Letourneau put in the work, loves to work out, and I don't want to say has a chip on his shoulder, excuse me, to prove people wrong. It'd be great if he did. Not that he needs any more motivation, but absolutely would be great if he did. I'm sure he's done this year at BC, and is like Zellers is going to be turning pro at the end of the year. Like Hagens, he will probably get an NHL contract.
Yeah, this is exactly the what this was always the path that you and I had talked about for him when he was drafted, because the ceiling was always there. The question was just whether or not he would be able to reach that ceiling. In that first year, you and I, we sat here over and over and over again preaching patience, looking at his opportunity, because he was also a third line guy there, fourth line opportunity sometimes. He has yet to be the main piece for BC. And even last year, he was more of a second fiddle. This year, he is the guy, and we saw from year one to year two the giant step that he took. He was also healthy. That helps. But,
Yeah.
Even if he goes from his 39-point season last year to 47 this year, and it's not the leap to 50 plus, it's still showing the improvement, and it's still showing that he is adapting to the NCAA as we needed him to, and he is learning to use that big giant frame of his against the competition. And I think that's, he's now gaining a lot more confidence in his skating, and you could see that at Dev Camp, and that's going to make a major difference for him. So he's building the confidence now at BC, and then again, I'm with you. I think by the end of the season, he should have an NHL contract.
Absolutely.
But we can't mention improving skating without mentioning Kristian Kostadinski, the 2023 220th overall selection, who has also done a lot of work on his skating, but still has much work to do to his game.
Yeah, look, I got to give the guy credit, because he certainly is putting in the work to improve himself. He's still not an NHL skater, but what he was from the minute they drafted him to now, and I've yet to see him to see what kind of work he put in this offseason. I got to give him credit for it, because it's night and day. I mean, I know you talked a lot about it before, but Adam McQuaid had to pull him over at his first development camp to show him how to stop on the skates. So he's not going to be a point producer. He's a massive body who can do some damage physically and be a shutdown player. But he's never going to be a point producer. And, at this point, I hate to say this about any player at this age, but at this point, unless there's a massive turnaround in his this season, he's looking more like a European hockey player than an AHL or NHL player. And I hate saying it, but you want honesty. There it is.
Yeah, it is what it is when you really are honest with the evaluation of what he's done. But you also have to be honest, which I know you said, he's come a long way in his skating. So, this is his second year at BC. So,
Yeah.
We have to see what that second year's worth of work will produce at the NCAA level. You and I said this when they drafted him almost 3 years ago. This kid is going to be a multi-year, 4 years in the NCAA kind of project. And that's what he is right now. Are we completely writing him off? No, but the chances are probably very slim that anything becomes of him. But you know what he is right now? He is a damn good sales piece for Boston College and their ability to help people learn how to skate.
Well,
because what he was when he went there versus what he is now, if you have someone like they've also done it with Dean Letourneau as well. The ceiling for Letourneau was higher, but you just made it that much better because now he's learning how to skate. And it's the same people who have taken the guy who can't skate at all to significantly better.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't want to spend any more time talking about Kostadinski.
That's okay. Up next, we have our 2025 51st overall pick, another BC guy, Will Moore. Someone who was not at Dev Camp this year due to injury, if I remember correctly, but someone who's going to get some spotlight on him now that he's at Boston College, and some of those other guys aren't there with him.
In a lot of ways, there's similarities between Will Moore and Dean Letourneau as to their progression. I don't think Moore is going to have the breakout season that Letourneau had, but he's going to get more opportunity. I mean, the kid has skills, and I'm surprised more people aren't talking about Will Moore than we're seeing, because he's definitely a skilled hockey player. He just never got opportunities in key situations last year. Even when Hagens was at the World Juniors, he was basically stuck in a third line role, little to no power play time. He's going to get all that this year, and the fact that Letourneau is going to be playing ahead of him means that he's going to get easier matchups as well. So, do I expect the type of progression Letourneau made? No, but I expect to see a big progression in him. Somewhere in the 25-point range wouldn't be out of the question for Moore. And you know what? The year after, he's going to get all the prime time at BC, depending on what else they do, right? So, interesting to watch. I like the player. So we'll see how it goes, but I don't think enough people are talking about Will Moore and his abilities.
Yeah, he seems like he's also a very smart player, and he's able to see the ice in a very particular way, which helps. I think last year people are going to look at Will Moore this year, and they're going to get an average season, like a good season from him, and they're going to overblow the expectation from growth, and like you said, probably compare him to Dean Letourneau in that growth from year 1 to year 2, and they're going to say, look, we have another one on our hands. But let's not forget that on the wing, he had Teddy Stiga ahead of him, Andre Gasso, Dean Letourneau can play wing, James Hagens can play wing, Oscar Jelvik was there as well. Like, these are all guys. And then the Blue Jackets, Oscar Hemming, he was also on that team. So right there, at best, he is starting at third line minutes on a good day.
Yep.
And so to then, if everybody's healthy, is he your third line? He's not a third line type of player. So would you rather, you know what I mean? Like, are you going to keep him as one of your extras for that game? Or are you going to, use him when there's injuries in your top 6? So like, he was already limited just off the rip. He did play in all 33 games, or in 33 games for them. So they at least were giving him ice time, but it wasn't great ice time. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same kind of ice time that Boston is giving to, I can't even say Victor Arvidsson, because at least he got power play time.
Yeah. So
next is going to be 2024 110th overall selection, Elliott Groenewold, who we've talked a lot about. And, I do think he's a name that's going under a lot of radars. But those who are paying attention to him, I do think know what they're seeing in the Quinnipiac Bobcat.
Yeah, I mean, the Bruins really liked him. They liked him enough to move up to draft him. So, I love his defensive game. He's one of the premier shutdown defensemen in all of D1 hockey. That said, I still think there's some offensive upside in his game. We saw a little bit last year. This year, what I'm focused on to watch him, because, like I said, we already know what his defensive game is like, is whether he can find that offensive part of his game and spend the next year or two developing that in college. So that's my main focus on Groenewold. Love his defensive ability, and if he makes it to the NHL, that's going to be his bread and butter. But to be able to move the puck and chip in a little bit offensively is going to push him further along. And that's what I'm curious to watch in him this season.
Do you see, with where he is right now, do you see him with with enough ability to break out the puck, make that first pass, and do some stuff? Because like we look at Brandon Carlo, and he was a shutdown guy. I think his ability to break out a puck and carry the puck a little bit went a little underrated. But if you're looking at Groenewold to be that shutdown guy, you know, like, does he really need to move the puck as well as Hampus does, for instance? Or because like we've seen Hampus go on a downswing when it comes to his offense, but he's still been a defensive stalwart for the most part over the course of his career.
I think it's there in his game. It definitely is. We're seeing it in college. Whether it translates to the pro level, only time will tell. But I'm not going to compare him to Brandon Carlo at his game because that's unfair to Groenewold.
I meant in terms of
see.
like role, not talent, not just in terms of
no,
role.
that's definitely his role. Is going to be as a shutdown defender.
Do you see him being a 4-year player at Quinnipiac? I know they are notorious for having people play there for 4 years. Like they're one of those longer term programs that does well year over year because they have a lot of return in their players. Do you see him being there for all 4 years, or do you think he might earn a contract after this year in any way?
No, we'll have to see how his season goes, but he's not on my definite list of needing a contract at the end of this season.
I definitely wouldn't put him on a definite list for sure. I am curious to hear where you would put 2023 92nd overall pick Chris Pelosi, though, because he is also going to be back. I believe he's at Quinnipiac as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to remember what year it is for him there.
My issue with Pelosi is this. He should have turned pro after last season. Whether he thinks there's unfinished business because the team left on a low note, right? Much more was expected from them. I'm looking at Pelosi like this. He's looking at the depth of the Bruins prospects pool and not seeing a path ahead of him here. And he could go the way of Andre Gasseau. That's my fear with Pelosi. He's got the skills to be an NHL player. He's got the drive to be an NHL player. He could be looking at a 40-point season this year in college. It's going to come down to what does he see his path like to the NHL. And I don't know that with Hagens, Letourneau, Matthew Poitras, if he's still here, Fraser Minten, that he sees
Zellers.
a path. Yeah. Well, I'm talking down the middle, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because that's where Pelosi plays. I'm not sure that he sees a path for himself there, and that we could see him go the way Andre Gasseau went. And that's my fear.
I think what they need to do, and this might show kind of their little bit of their change in philosophy, is because of his ceiling, if he is able to start producing, or consistently produce, let me rephrase it, and show that he is a year over year producer, he may be someone that Boston needs to look at putting in a package. He may be someone that, whether instead of dealing away a second round pick, you include him instead. That way he's able to go on and have the career that he's looking for, but you're able to bring in the player and still have a draft pick. That's the kind of prospect that I'm looking at him becoming this season, unless he finds a way to push someone else into that role. So
Yeah. So
that's what they would call asset management. But we've got a couple left, so I do want to pick this up a little bit. So apologies. So this isn't a very long episode, just a little bit longer. Up next, though, is 2024 154th overall Jonathan Morello.
So look, I love Morello's all around game. He showed some offensive pop in junior A. Then went to the USHL and now college, and the offensive pop hasn't been there. But in this list that we're going through, he's probably the best defensive forward that they have. Is that enough to get to the NHL? Maybe in a fourth line role, but let's also look at it that that's what he was playing at BU last year. He's going to get more opportunity this year, obviously, whether it's the third line role or maybe even higher, maybe get some power play time. So we'll see if he can find his offensive game at this level. Didn't work out for him in the USHL offensively, but I love his defensive game. His skating is elite. I'm not so sure that there's enough of his game to make it to the NHL as a fourth liner. But the game is changing. The way the NHL views their fourth lines now is different than what even 5 years ago. So never say never when it comes to Morello, but I'm expecting a bit better season offensively at BU this year, but I love his defensive game.
Yeah, very strong defensively. Also looking to find his game. I don't have a lot to add on Morello. I definitely think people are going to want to keep their eye on him to see if that offense is there, if he can find it. But also looking for offense, you and I have talked about him quite a bit, is their 2023 124th overall pick, Beckett Hendrickson. He just doesn't seem to hasn't been able to find that offense. Last year took a step up, but where do you see Beckett Hendrickson trying to be at this year as he goes back to University of Minnesota?
Well, first and foremost, I love his game, his energy, his commitment to attack the puck. His motor just never quits. In 2 years at Minnesota, he's been all over the lineup, fourth line, third line. There are times when he had the opportunity to fill in the first and second line, and the offense was there. He produced when he was given those opportunities. What level he could get at, we'll have to wait and see what kind of opportunities he's going to be given at Minnesota this year. But I hate player comparisons, but with the exception of fighting or the willingness to drop the gloves, he looks a lot like Mark Kastelik, which is nonstop. This is when Kastelik is on his game.
Yeah.
When he's attacking the puck and attacking in the O zone and getting in on the body and winning puck battles and all that sort of stuff. I just want to see where he can take it offensively with more opportunity.
Because obviously numbers wise, production isn't entirely there. But like you said, when he's been elevated in the lineup, he's been able to hold his own and produce. When he's lower in the lineup, he plays that role as well. Do you think him jumping up and down in that lineup is hurting his value? Or do you think the Bruins are going to look at him and go, we can plug him in anywhere, and get by, like they did with a Danton Heinen, for instance. Danton Heinen played third, fourth line. He played second and first line, and they loved him. He was a Swiss Army knife.
Or more recently, Murat Hustadinov.
Hustadinov is another one. Yep. Do you think Boston looks at Hendrickson and says he's someone else we can do that with? Or do you think without the production there,
absolutely,
that might hurt him a little bit?
Absolutely, they do. Absolutely. You can't undervalue players like that, but I think he has more offensive upside in him. But we'll see again what kind of opportunities he's given.
Yep, we'll have to roll the dice every time he's in the lineup and see what he can do. But definitely worth keeping an eye on because he does produce when he gets those minutes. So, also last year able to produce point per game pace for the last 2 seasons for Cornell is 188th overall pick from 2023 Ryan Walsh. Now Walsh, if I'm not mistaken, will be going into his second year as Cornell's captain, correct?
Yeah, 4th year. So he's turning pro at the end of the year. Whether it's Boston or not remains to be seen. What I love about Walsh last season is that he took a major hit scoring goals, but more than made up with it in setting up with it. So I'm disappointed that he didn't turn pro after last season, but again, unfinished business. So like we mentioned earlier with Pelosi, I'm wondering whether Walsh sees a path for himself in Boston. It's hard to say with him. I don't know that he's going to beat out guys like Letourneau or Hague. Well, I know for a fact he's not going to beat them out. Then there's a Fraser Mint. There's a Matthew Poitras. He's still here. Could he become a winger? Yeah, he's never played it. Not in games that I've watched him play. So I don't know. I don't see a path for him in Boston in the future.
Yeah, the path is key that you're talking about because a lot of players are going to start looking at that, and they look at it in every organization. This isn't something we're just making up for the Boston Bruins. It's just, when you look at that landscape and you go, there are 31 other teams with expansion on the horizon. We have to put that caveat in there now. At what point does a player choose to go back to college for that unfinished business when they know that they're just going to be stuck in Providence for a couple seasons anyway? Especially with NIL money, some of them are able to make decent with the college game. They don't have to be in a rush, especially because the way the ELCs work, it doesn't favor the players. So if they can play 4 years at college, get a free degree, basically, because most of these guys are, if not on full scholarship, heavy scholarship, and, play your 4 years and become a free agent. Some of them are going to do that.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Up on the list next, though, is someone who has been in the Bruins system for quite some time, since 2022. They drafted him 117th overall. We've talked a lot about where he's at overall, but Cole Spicer. I'm very interested to see where he goes with his second year at Western Michigan. I got to give this kid all the credit in the world for taking the step to go back to the USHL. Played with Dubuque for a year after some issues with the University of Minnesota Duluth. You and I have talked a lot about him. I'm really excited to see what he can do on the ice this year. I hope there are no off-ice issues with him because that is the number one issue. And obviously you and I, we wish him the best with all of that.
Yeah, that's all I'm looking for is a full season out of him because he has some talent. He has some skills. We know he can produce points when he's into the game. I just want to see a full season out of him. Might it be too little, too late for him? Maybe. Um, we'll have to wait and see. But I just want him to have a healthy, happy season and get a full season in and see what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, that I know it's a low bar, but having him find happiness on the ice again, and yeah, production's there. I'm not overly worried about it. Nice and simple one for Spicer there. Next up though is Cole Chandler, 2025 draft pick, 133rd overall. Where do you see, or what do you expect from him as he is playing at Cape Breton this year, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Working on getting him on the podcast as well. I'm told as soon as he arrives in Cape Breton, he'll be made available to us. Look, plays with energy, strong on pucks, excellent defensively. He had a breakout season offensively, but he's not going to be a major offensive producer moving forward. So we'll just see. He's going to Northeastern next year. I believe it's Northeastern
I think so.
that he's going to. So he'll have a long development path ahead of him. His bread and butter is going to be his two-way game defensively, being able to get in on the forecheck, strong on pucks, maybe even be the on the power play. We'll see. He's gonna go into a good situation in Cape Breton. Final year in the CHL before he goes to college. But what he does in college is going to be the telltale for Chandler moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes for this season. And then just a couple left. Last skater on the list, though, Jacob Vandeven, 2026, 157 overall. He has at least one more year with the London Knights in the OHL. We talked about them earlier, and they're just an NHL factory. So what do you expect from Vandeven this season with the Knights?
Honestly, he's so hard to read. I have no expectations because I don't know whether the Knights are going to keep him on defense, which is where he started as a forward last year in the Go JHL and was moved to defense there when the Knights called him up. They kept him on defense for I think it was 8 games. He only had a brief stint in the OHL. So I'm curious to see what the Knights do with him, whether they keep him on the blue line or they move him back up front. So basically, I've got no expectations for him until I see how Coach Dale Hunter wants to use him in London.
That makes it tough to really try to project anything for him, for sure. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. Up last, we saved the goaltending. I'm going to start with 2026 170th overall pick, Roberto Enriquez. He will be with Boston College this season, if I remember correctly.
That's
but is
correct.
he going to be the guy there?
I don't think he's going to be the guy. Leo, as everybody calls him. Look, I mean, you saw him at development camp. Excellent reflexes, fabulous on his skates, in control of his movements. This could be a very underrated pick by the Bruins. We'll see how his season goes at BC. I don't know that I would bet against him. Again, going to a good team, a good development team in BC, he's going to get some opportunity to uh, showcase himself there. But if he doesn't get a lot, we shouldn't be worried about it. It's just the way college goaltending works. You ride one guy most of the time. Um, we got Philip Svedback, who today the Bruins lose their rights to, who was the guy at Providence College for 4 seasons and then didn't earn an NHL contract. So starts aren't important for Enriquez this year, but the overall development is what we should be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, what he does when he is in net is the more important thing. They've got a couple guys ahead of him, so maybe he's able to go in there and steal some starts. That's kind of what you're hoping he can do. But the number you can't really focus too much on. And last but not least, we have probably the Bruins' biggest surprise of this year's draft at 56 overall, Yuri Ivanov. You talk about quick reflexes. This kid is strong in his crease, and I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are on what to expect from him over in the MHL again this year.
So going back to Spartak in the MHL this year, I tell you, I loved him in the playoffs last season. I saw every one of his games in the playoffs when he was playing against Yemelyanov. So I had some viewings of him. I didn't really see a whole lot of him in the regular season. All those games, by the way, people, because they say, yeah, I hear people complain that you can't watch Russian junior games. They're free on YouTube. They're absolutely free.
You just answered one of the questions I was going to wrap up the show with.
Yeah. So if you're up at 9 o'clock in the morning, just find the team you're looking for. In this case, Spartak in the MHL, or go to the website. You can even watch the games live on the MHL website. So they are available, and it just bugs me when people say you can't get to watch them. But every game is there, and you can go back and look at every one of Ivanov's games from last season. They're all in the history. So I'm looking forward to watching him this season. I'm retired now, so getting up and watching a hockey game at 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning is not a big deal for me. I know it is for a lot of people because they have work. That said, I'm still surprised the Bruins drafted him where he did or where they did. I'm not against the player per se as a pick as I am opposed to where they selected him. That said, I don't hold it against the player. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season in the MHL. And within a year, people are going to say, maybe the Bruins were right about this, but it still just doesn't justify a second-round pick.
Not with some of the other needs that they had, though. Do you think, because last year he got 17 games during the regular season and then all 16 playoff games, do you think he has taken that starting job for Spartak?
Yeah. He became a starter in the playoffs because what is it? I think it's a 62 game regular season in the MHL. It's different for every team, but for Spartak, I think it's a 62 game season. So he started 17? That's less than 1/3 of the game. So, but yeah, he stole that job and deservedly so in the playoffs because Loco was a juggernaut in the MHL, absolute juggernaut. That's Yemelyanov and Kotkov's team. Not just the playoffs, but the regular season. And Ivanov stole games for Spartak against them. Like he literally stole games in the playoffs. And where Loco was winning some playoff games 6-1 and 7-2, he kept them close, even in the games that they lost. So again, I'm fine with the player. I actually love the player. I'm just not sold that he should have been a second round pick. Not as a goaltender.
Yeah, the location of the pick, I think, was more or less this is when Boston is picking than anything. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that continues to kind of percolate through his career. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the starts that he got. His 17 in the regular season, he went 13-3-1. So he is producing when he's in net. And then obviously, like you said, he didn't dip in what he was doing when it went to the playoffs. So they'll be worth watching for sure this year. That is the list as it stands right now. We'll dissect the list a little bit more as the season progresses. You know, it's already been over an hour. So my last question for you for this show is, what are your final wrap up thoughts for the folks as they, finish listening to this list?
As I said earlier, we got the interview coming up with Vashek Blanar this week. Obviously, we'll put it out on Twitter when the episode is available. We won't be doing it live. We will be recording it and releasing it through the week. So subscribe if you want it available to you as soon as it comes out, or turn on notifications, whatever it is on YouTube that you have to do, just so that you know when it's available. But like I said, we will put it out on Twitter. I know I talked to Vashik yesterday. I messaged you. He told me he's very excited about the opportunity to talk to us. So we'll see. I think it'll be a good chat with him.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And like you said, everybody needs to keep an eye on the social channels. It'll drop on YouTube when we're done recording it, shortly thereafter. And like, subscribe. That way there you know when it drops. And thanks to everybody for tuning in for the extra few minutes here as we tried to wrap up the list. And we'll see everybody next week. In the meantime, go Bees.
Go Prospects.
Welcome to the Dom.Hockey podcast, proudly presented by Bench Rates. Created by a former hockey player, Bench Rates uses a proprietary algorithm to assign a true monetary value to a player's on-ice contributions and lets you compare that value directly to his cap hit. Bench Rates evaluates professional players across leagues worldwide, including the NHL and AHL. Learn more at benchrates.com. Also presented by McKeen's Hockey. McKeen's produces the premier NHL draft guide featuring more than 200 player reports and comprehensive rankings. They also deliver in-depth prospect coverage through their annual team-by-team rankings and their trusted hockey pool yearbook. Visit mckeens.com and subscribe